right, let's talk about this. So, most women are building brands online and working really hard, but still feel invisible. And they're posting, they're showing up, doing all the right things, but nothing's really clicking. And I know that I spent way too long in that cycle before I realized that the strategy wasn't the problem. I didn't have to say what she was saying. I didn't have to go copy what someone else was doing. And it was really the foundation that was the problem. And so in this video, we're breaking down the principles, the exact steps that really changed how we build our brands. And so if you're a faith-driven woman and you're trying to create real impact and income online, then stay with us because we got some special stuff planned for you.
Yeah. And so if we're just connecting for the first time, we're Janine and Natalie, and we help faith-driven women build scalable income online, like she said, but doing that without burnout and without you compromising your values. So today we're going to be diving into the do's and the don'ts of building your brand presence in 2026. And we're keeping that practical without the fluff, so you can apply these tips, to your day-to-day social media and as you go about building your brand.
Yeah. So before we get into the strategy, let's reset the definition of, what is a brand, because your brand is not about your logo, your colors. It's not like that aesthetic. It's really not even your content. Your brand is your stewardship of influence. And so Luke 16:10 says, if you are to be faithful with little. And so the question isn't, how do I grow fast? How do I do it faster and get more people and influence? It's really, how do I show up faithfully with the audience I already have? Even if it's only like 100 followers or even 50, because that's your starting point and you got to work that like it matters, because it really does. I mean, imagine if you had 50 or 100 people in a room, that's not insignificant.
Yeah, I think when I thought about that way, that definitely made a lot of mindset shifts or perspective shifts even, which then helps lead to the first do that we should be doing is showing up consistently. And I know if you've been in business for any amount of time, you've heard this and know that it's important, but it is, it does matter that you're showing up consistently. It doesn't have to be perfectly though. So consistency is the number one thing that will separate accounts that grow from accounts that stall. But here's where people get it wrong. It doesn't mean that you have to necessarily post every single day, multiple times a day. And what it means is that you're showing up reliably as the same person with that same message, and that people can kind of count on you, right? They know that, hey, you're going to be on social media. Actually, share a story right now. I've had people reaching out to me via text because they've noticed I haven't been online because currently my Facebook is shut down. And so some people are like, where are you? What happened? Because they know they could count on me. I was reliable. So that's what you want to be. And so your practical tip is pick 3 to 4 days. If you're still newer, you're still trying to build on that consistency, just pick 3 to 4 days a week and commit to that. Janine and I, though, we are doing almost every single day. We take a day, for the Sabbath, but we even, we've been able to build that muscle. So definitely want to grow on that. And if you want to, you can even batch your content and maybe pick a day where if you're wanting to do video type content, that you kind of do that on the same day. And then now you have your content kind of laid out for you for the week, but also allow the Holy Spirit to work in you and just give you kind of the prompts and the messaging that you want to share and how to show up, but keep that consistency with who you are and how you want to show up and how you want to be known. I love Hebrews 13:8 says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So right there, we can use that as an example, and people trust what feels stable. And so you want to be that for your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really, this is what changed everything for me too, is to stop trying to talk to everyone. You may feel like, well, I don't want to narrow it in because I want to make sure that, it resonates with this person and that person and these kind of people. But if you narrow it in, not only does that, bring you to a place where you're not speaking to everyone, you're really dialed in and the right people finally feel like you're talking to them. But it also is like an algorithm thing. That's definitely one of those things. If the algorithm doesn't know who you're talking to, it's not going to push you out. And so you got to keep that in mind too. And so write out a one paragraph description of your ideal person. And yes, you want to write out like her age, her struggle, like really picture her, like name her. We actually sat down and did this and we had a name for her. And so keep that in mind. Like where are they at in their beliefs and their faith? What is she up at midnight thinking about? And remember too, yes, you're writing down the age and all of the things, but it's not about the age because two 40-year-old moms can want radically different things and have radically different opinions. And so it's not so much demographic as it is belief. And so think about it with even the last couple of years of, COVID and all the politics and all the crazy, people have moved into segregating a little bit, especially on social media, based on their beliefs. And so you've got to remember when you're talking to someone, you're not talking to everyone. You've got to really dial it in. And then once you've got it dialed in, then you can create every piece of content for that person. And then remember that Jesus ministered to thousands. So you still are out there talking to thousands, but he discipled 12. So you're going to go deep before you go wide.
I love that. And I think this is really a huge part of what building your brand is, and doing it from a biblical perspective is it's about discipleship. And one of the things that we love is like you are leading well. So this is the next thing you want to focus on is like, how are you, right? When we talk about showing up, are you leading others? And I always tell people that I mentor, like, you want to put your mentor hat on. Think about how can you show up to put yourself also in a position with that authority, and then to have that posture and that confidence that you're coming to show people and lead with the transformation that you offer for them. You want to cast vision, talk about what you do and the impact it's having on your life, on other people's life, right? Having that social proof and still having a mixture of, different types of content. But for example, though, you do want to be, again, consistent of like leading with what it is how you're going to impact people. And so I recommend like daily in your stories because people need reminded, they need the repetition. It doesn't mean that every single thing, for example, if you're showing, putting things in stories has to be about your business or your offer, but making sure that's prevalent, that that's coming up for people. And then also depending on your platform, it may depend on, how often you're posting a day. So if you're doing 2 to 3 posts, then one of those is maybe going to be that business related, but then you're mixing that with educational and relatable things that are going to help, right, bring that attraction to you as well, but also you're serving people. So use a content, like a mixture of content. So educational, relatable, testimonials, and then having those promotional posts as well. Not everyone needs to have like a call to action, but it's just really important that you come from that servant leadership, and that's going to build your trust. And the trust is what converts, and where people feel like, okay, they know you and they can connect with you. So I love Colossians 3:23. We know it talks about working as unto the Lord. So your content, think about it as an act of service. And when you know your mission, like the who, the what, the why, you're going to be motivated to show up. And then like posting content and the consistency, right, will start to now become more easy for you to do that.
I love that. And so number 4 is to share your story. You want to do this strategically. So your story is your greatest competitive advantage because no one else has your story. This is what makes you unique. This is how you show up more authentically. And that's really, if you think about, even our mess is our message. Your test that you've gone through is your testimony. But the nuance is you're not going to just share it randomly. You want to share stories that connect back to the transformation that you can help people experience. So whether that is helping them to create an income online, whether help them to save money on travel or in the wellness industry, you want to make sure that you do that. And so you want to connect it back to that transformation, and then also connect back to your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you out here building? And the other thing too that you can do is, practically like map out 5 to 7 personal stories that relate to your niche. Now, your niche may not be like if you're in a travel business, your niche might not be travel. It might be faith-led women. It might be empty nesters. There's so many different niches. And so it's not necessarily the business. It's like your person. It's who is the person that you are talking to. That's more of your niche. Okay, so you want to think about like the moment that you hit rock bottom, the turning point, the when you almost missed, like make sure that you give a little bit of detail in there. So you want to keep it short and obviously like honest, but always point back to like, what does it mean for your audience? It's not about you. Like you're sharing your story because it's part of your testimony. It isn't because it's about you. It's not about bragging or showing off or any of those things. And keep in mind that doing that is also obedience, right? One of the things that really stood out to me too is in Revelation 12:11, it says they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. So your story has power. Use it.
Exactly. So, and then that will lead to, because guess what? When you're storytelling, this is going to help you build relationships and connections, not just a following. And we believe that, again, if we go back to, we are believers, we're building our business with God. This is part of discipleship. I know everybody just wants everybody to come to them and, constantly rely on just attraction marketing, but don't be afraid to build real relationships with people, having conversations with them. Yeah. And then also connecting with your people. So the algorithm loves engagement, but more importantly, it loves that people love being seen, right? So every day, right? Set a timer so you're not just getting stuck in a scroll hole or getting distracted, but being intentional with your time, right? But spending 15 to 20 minutes genuinely connect with people, reply back to comments from all your posts, respond to story reactions. And then that helps you also get in the DMs and then can build connections further. And then also starting conversations with people just to like, hey, maybe you just were connected with each other. Maybe they just started following you. Okay. You don't always have to start with just like pitching people, ask questions and then follow up with people as well. And this is what can really separate the brand that converts from an account, like I said, that's just going to have only followers and they're not really monetizing anything either. And so I actually heard this morning in my quiet time. So I thought this was really cool about like, right, asking questions that can also help build connections. Is Jesus himself actually talked about how he asked 307 questions and that are kind of laid out in scripture that we know of. So he was always asking about people and about what their thoughts were and what, all the things more than he was, always just like being the one talking. So make sure that you're always kind of also taking that role of like, how can I be interested in this person and genuinely like want to find out about them? And then you're going to also know and be able to see like, is what you have something for them that you can share?
Yeah, and if you're the one asking the questions, you're the one leading the conversation. So keep that in mind as well. All right, so let's dive into the don'ts. The first one is don't chase every trend without discernment. Not every trend that's out there is for you, and chasing the wrong ones will actually hurt your account and make your brand feel more inconsistent and honestly will exhaust you because you'll feel like you're chasing all these things and trying to get ahead and you're not getting anywhere. One thing is a practical tip is before jumping on a trend, ask, does this align with my message? Does this serve my audience? And can I add my own perspective to it? Or am I just copying it? Now, there was a time where you could literally just download something and repost it and it would go crazy. But they're really cracking down on that these days. So you really have to take inspiration if you're seeing something like that and change up some of it to match your audience too. And it just reminds me too of Romans 12. Do not conform to the patterns of this world. Keep in mind, trends are tools and not your identity.
Exactly. And so that goes into don't compare your chapter 2 to someone's chapter 20. I remember hearing this like my first year, years ago in business. And we've all probably heard comparison is a thief of joy, but also can be a content killer. And so I want you to think about how actually when you see content that you love or you see someone who just seems to be crushing it or building so much influence, is actually also use that as inspiration and kind of a way to study them and learn. How could you, like, what is it about them? Like, what skills have they maybe learned and that they're implementing that you can also build upon as well? But if you're always comparing, I remember there was a time I even had someone like I was constantly comparing myself to her. I ended up having just to unfollow her because I felt like I couldn't measure up, and I knew that that was right messing with my mindset and showing up. So I mean, just be really mindful of that, because what's going to happen is you're going to second guess your voice, your niche, like everything you're doing, and you're going to end up sounding like someone else instead of yourself. Or it's going to, right, make you not want to show up because you think, well, I can't say it as good as her, or I don't look as pretty as her, or whatever. And you're going to try and hide yourself. And that, I think, is the enemy, right? Trying to come and kind of steal your voice, right? So like level up, and like that's why it's so important when you know your identity in Christ, like you can start showing up as you. So do a weekly audit of who you're following. If any account consistently makes you feel behind or lesser, like I said, you might just need to unfollow as well, but protect that creative space is really important. Just like Galatians 6:4 says, each person should test their own work. And so stay in your lane and you'll feel good about it.
Yeah. And don't post without a strategy. So that's number 3. Random content gets random results. And so if there's no thread connecting what you post, your audience won't know like what you stand for or how you can help them. It also, your content really needs to have a congruent line from content to offer. And so keep that in mind when you're posting something. So you want to define 3 to 4 content pillars, like core topics that you rotate through. So for us, it's faith, business, freedom, family. Every piece of content then fits somewhere. And this creates clarity for your audience and makes content creation a whole lot easier for you. So they know what to expect. The algorithm knows what to expect. And you can go through and be like, what haven't I posted in a while? Or even really come up with a content plan or a content calendar. And yeah, you can always, be a little spirit led here or there and switch it up. But if you have a plan and you have stuff mapped out, then those days that you're not sure what to post, you can just go grab an idea and run with it.
Yeah, exactly. So we have 2 don'ts left. So the next one is don't hide or dilute your faith. So kind of what she was just sharing. Don't feel like you can't talk about it or you have to hide from it. Okay. You don't have to open every post though with a verse or scripture, but if your faith is the foundation of how you live and how you lead, so let that show to people, because that will also attract the right people to you. So be bold in the marketplace with your values and be bold with your business. Your posture, that relatability, the confidence that you have is what's going to, attract those people to you. And so integrate your faith naturally, reference your values, your prayer life, maybe routines you have, the convictions you have, but just like let it, like we went back to talking about storytelling and content, right? Let it just be part of your voice, not a completely separate segment. Don't feel like you have to keep it out. We can integrate it because it's who we are. So just like it says in Matthew 5:16, let your light shine before men. So this is your opportunity to do that. And your boldness is going to give other women permission to be bold too.
Yes. All right. This is a big one. I feel like this is the most important one. Don't quit when it gets quiet. So Natalie actually just shared something in one of our group chats as well on this, on just the different seasons. And so just know there's going to be a quiet season. Like it's coming. If you haven't hit it yet, it's going to be there. You're going to have a time where things are more quiet. And the biggest mistake I see is women that are doing everything right and then they stop right before they have breakthrough. I don't know if you've ever seen like the guy, he's like hacking at the wall, he's in the mine, and you can see that there's diamonds right on the other side of what he's hitting. It's this really like thin layer of rock that's left, and he walks away. And that is so real. That is how life works. And honestly, the breakthrough is things usually get really hard right before. So just lean into it and keep going. Track what your leading indicators are, not just your results. Track what are you doing. Have process oriented goals instead of results oriented goals. If you are continuing to do the process, yes, have that thing in mind, have goals in mind of where you want your results to be, but focus on the process, because there are going to be these signs of momentum before the numbers show it. I honestly, I cannot tell you how often that I've even had people reaching out after watching me for 6, 7, 8, 9 months, I've been watching you for a year. Like they never said anything. I didn't even know who they were. They never liked, they never commented, they never nothing. But you're getting all these views on stuff, but nobody's saying anything. Well, just know that that's not doing nothing. Like things are happening. And that totally reminds me, and Natalie used to remind me of this all the time, is Galatians 6:9. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season you will reap if you do not give up. So stay planted.
Yes, that's literally one of my anchor verses that I recite often. So, if you take one thing from this, okay, I want it to be this: you don't need to become someone else to build something powerful. You need to become more aligned with who God has already called you to be, and then leverage the right platforms for you and the skills so that you can help get your message out. Okay.
Yeah, and when you do that consistently and faithfully with intention, then growth stops being something that you chase. It becomes something that follows you.
And so if this spoke to you, what we want you to do is drop a line in the comments because we want to know who's building with purpose in 2026 and does this align with you? And then we want you to grab our resource that's linked below. So that way you can be one of our faith-led leaders who is scaling to 5-figure months. And this will be a guide for you to help you do that while you're keeping faith and family first.
Yes, and subscribe. We've got so much more coming. And share this with a woman who needs to hear it today. All right, see you next time.